Hello, hello everyone. My name is Anna, and I welcome you to this new video on this channel, Jóvenes Peregrinando. Today's video is titled Consecration to Rid the Coming Flood, which is based on chapter 9 of Genesis. In the first verses of this chapter, we will be able to see that the Eternal does not let Noah and his children do whatever they want after they were saved from the flood. And we can also see that the Eternal continues to instruct them through laws where we can find that consecration. These laws are given to Noah and his children since the beginning, but in the Torah, we will be able to see that these laws are given later on to the people of Israel. And starting off with verse 1, it says, "And Elohim blessed Noah and his sons, and said unto them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth." In this first verse, we see that the Eternal gives Noah and his children the commandment to be fruitful. That is, that the works of their hands should be good and justice. And he also tells them to multiply. Due to the judgment that the Eternal had made, we see that Noah and his family were the only ones left after the flood. And because of that, we can see that the Eternal tells them to multiply. But this multiplication was not just a multiplication of human beings without any purpose. No, the commandment was even more. It was sublime because the purpose of the Father for humanity was to multiply again so that souls will so that souls with full understanding of obedience existed among the people who seek to do good, who seek in spirit and truth the way back to Elohim. Verse 2 says, "The fear and dread of you will fall on all the beasts of the earth, and all the birds in the sky, on every creature that moves along the ground, and all the fish in the sea. They are given into your hands." Here, once again, we see that the Eternal gives the man the dominion over the animals, all sort of type of animals, just like it was since the beginning of the creation with Adam. But now we see that the Eternal gives Noah and his children this responsibility or this obligation or this domain to take care of these animals. Continuing reading verses 3 to 4, it says, "Everything that lives and moves will be food for you. Just as I gave you the green plants, I now give you everything." Here we can find instructions that the Eternal gives to Noah and tells him that everything that moves on earth and all kind of herbs he and his children could eat. But even though we see that the Eternal says everything, it really isn't everything. And we are going to see later on when the Eternal himself gave Moses commandments about what was allowed to eat and what was not allowed. In Leviticus 11, we find laws related to food, and there we see that not all animals are the same, but each one has its classification or which are only two groups, and one group is the impure animals, and the other group is the pure animals, according to their physical characteristics, to know if they can be consumed or not. So with this knowledge, we understand that when the Father tells them that they could eat everything that moved, they already had the understanding that there were animals that by their nature were disapproved for humans to consume. Since previously, when we see that Noah entered the ark before the flood, he started to receive instructions from the Eternal, and one of these instructions is from the impure animals he had to take only 2, and from the pure he had to take 14 of them. And in this we can see how from the beginning in Genesis the Eternal already had laws for these people, which were oral. And although they were not written, they were already but they already existed to men fearful of the Almighty, who kept them and transmitted them to their generations. In verses 4 through 6 it says, "But you must not eat meat that has its lifeblood still in it, and for your lifeblood I will surely demand an accounting. I will demand an accounting for every animal, and for each human being too. I will demand an accounting for the life of another human being. Whoever sheds human blood, by humans shall their blood be shed. For in the image of Elohim has made mankind." This commandment that we read in this verse, or in these verses, it teaches us about blood and how men should not consume it, since in it is the life of the being from whom it is taken from. Also, we find instructions here that the Eternal gives to Noah about not killing your neighbor, and what later on in the book of Exodus we also find as part of the 10 phrases that the Eternal gives to Moses, and which is that you will not kill. In Leviticus 24 verse 21, we find a law that says, "Whoever kills an animal must make restitution, but whoever kills a human being is to be put to death." Continuing with verses 8 through 15, it says, "Then the Eternal said to Noah and to his sons with him, I now establish my covenant with you and with your descendants after you, and with every living creature that was with you, the birds, the livestock, and all the wild animals, all those that came out of the ark with you, every living creature on earth. I establish my covenant with you. Never again will all life never again will all there we go. Never again will there be a flood to destroy the earth. And the earth said, This is a sign of the covenant I am making between me and you, and every living creature with you, a covenant from all generations to come. I have set my rainbow in the clouds, and it will be the sign of the covenant between me and the earth. Whenever I bring clouds over the earth, and the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will remember my covenant between me and you and all living creatures of every kind. Never again will the earth or never again will the waters become a flood to destroy all life. The pact that is mentioned in these verses mean an agreement where two parts comply. On one hand, on one hand, the Creator complies, and on the other hand, the other part complies. Even later on, we will be able to see that the Eternal also makes a pact with the people of Israel through His commandments, as long as both parts comply, and they are part of what the pact is. And this pact consists in verse 15, when the Eternal says, He will no longer destroy the earth with flood waters. When the Eternal says, never again will life be destroyed, it doesn't mean never. The Creator specifically mentioned that life will never be destroyed with water. How in the moment the humanity was destroyed with waters? As a sign of the pact between him and Noah is why the Eternal says that never will life be destroyed with waters. But in 2 Peter 3 verses 5 through 7, it talks about a deluge of fire. And it says, but they deliberately forget that long ago by the Eternal's word, the heavens came into being, and the earth was formed out of water and by water. By these waters, also the world of that time was deluged and destroyed. By the same word, the present heavens and earth are reserved for fire, being kept for the day of judgment and destruction of the ungodly. We see here a different element with which this judgment will come, just as the time the earth was destroyed by this deluge of waters. For now, it is not expected that the earth will be finished by waters, but that fire will be the one that destroys everything. In verses 18 through 29, we are going to see that it narrates the drunkenness of Noah. And it says, the sons of Noah who came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham was the father of Canaan. These were the three sons of Noah, and from them came the people who were scattered over the whole world. Noah, a man of the soil, proceeded to plant a vineyard, where he drank some of its wine. He became drunk and laid uncovered inside his tent. In these verses, it may seem like this process wasn't long, but time passes by through the winemaking process. So we see that this process was not fast. In fact, this process of making wine from its harvest takes a few years, in which this product is stored and becomes wine until it is fermented. We see how Noah drinks wine and gets drunk. This is what leads to Noah getting naked. Noah is in an exposed state, for which we can see later on that one of his sons takes advantage of the state that Noah was in. Another thing that is mentioned in these verses is about the drunkenness. The effect Noah fell into, we can understand it till this day. Because if we continue to exceed and we do not moderate our quantity towards those drinks, it can cause feelings of euphoria, loss of reflex, and confusion. In addition, alcohol affects coordination by inhibiting the activity of the brain regions that provide motor control. Hence, the feeling of intoxication produces lightheadedness, dizziness, and time passes by more slowly. In addition to all these effects of exceeding these drinks, it brings even more consequences because in that state, one is exposed and is not attentive to act well to act well or to be able to know what is going on in that moment. In the book of Proverbs, it says that falling into drunkenness is not wise, or it is not a wise thing to do, because being in that state, we can forget about the instruction of the eternal, and we can do things that are contrary to what the instructions say. Due to all these symptoms, it gave rise to more consequences in the problem, which we can see as violations of the instruction. Now, wine was and is something that is allowed within the instruction to consume, but everything has to do with the amount that we consume, and that we do not fall in excess until we reach drunkenness. There were certain people in the scriptures who were not allowed to drink wine. For example, in Leviticus chapter 10, there is a case of Nadab and Abihu when they offer a strange fire. This refers to the fact that they were also in that state of drunkenness. In Leviticus 10 verses 8 through 9, we can see that immediately after this event happens, the Creator instructs Aaron, saying, "Then the Eternal said to Aaron, you and your sons are not to drink wine or other fermented drink whenever you go into the tent of meeting, or you will die. This is the last ordinance for the generations to come." This decree was kept to the Levites, which were those who served in holy places. These drinks were not allowed so that they could do their service well and not die, as in the case of Nadab and Abihu. Other types of people who couldn't drink these drinks are also mentioned, which were the ones who would make the vow of the Nazarene, because they were separated, and for this type of voluntary vow, each person had to comply with certain instructions and one of them was not to drink. We can see the example of the Nazarenes in Samson, who was forbidden from this drink, that even his mother during her pregnancy could not drink this type of liquor, and not even the same grape, because it was consecrated. Continuing with the story of the drunkenness, we see here that Ham is mentioned, who was one of Noah's sons, who, according to extra biblical books such as Yashad, it mentions that Noah had married this girl called Naam, and that Cam had this contaminated genetics of his mom. In genetic inheritance, Cam being the third son, gained his mother's genes, and therefore it is inferred that he was the one who sinned this way. And continuing with verses 22 and 23, it says, Cam, the father of Canaan, saw his father naked, and told his two brothers outside. But Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it across their shoulders. Then they walked in backwards and covered their father's naked body. Their faces were turned the other way, so that they would not see their father naked. In these verses, we can understand that apparently Cam only saw his father's nakedness, and being that way, we can probably ask ourselves, why such a severe punishment? Which later on we will read that when Noah realizes what his son had done to him, he hated him and even cursed him. Many times within the instruction, expressions are used that can indicate something else. And it's important to understand the text in its Hebrew context. And in the case of the word for nudity is kala, which is primary root undressed, is specifically in a dishonorable sense, discover, undress. So what is inferred by seeing his father's nudity is that Cam committed incest with his mother, and that is why we can read later on that Noah curses him. In Leviticus 18 verse 17, it says, "Do not dishonor your father by having sexual relations with your mother. She is your mother. Do not have relations with her." In the same way, in the Torah, it is quoted in Deuteronomy 27 verse 20 that says, "Cursed is anyone who sleeps with his father's wife, for he dishonors his father's bed." Then all the people shall say, Amen. These verses from Genesis, we can understand that Cam not only saw his father without clothes, but actually discovered his mother's nakedness. Coming to her, that is, having sexual relationship with her. Since the fall of Adam and Eve, we see that man is in a consistent struggle to remain true unto the Creator, despite their fallen nature. There were men who made an effort not to adapt to their environment full of sin. Among them, we can find men like Enoch or Noah. However, being fair is not being perfect, and Noah, together with his wife, experienced the power that looks at men. In this case, the opportunity to refrain from sinning. However, he did not. He did not, and he decided to follow his carnal impulses. Finishing with the last verses of chapter 9, it says, "When Noah awoke from his wine and found out what his youngest son had done to him, he said, 'Cursed be Canaan, the lowest of slaves will he be to his brothers.' He also said, 'Praise to be the Eternal, the Elohim of Shem. May Canaan be the slave of Shem. May the Eternal extend Japheth's territory. May Japheth live in the tents of Shem, and may Canaan be the slave of Japheth.' After the flood, Noah lived 350 years. Noah lived a total of 950 years, and then he died. In the Judaism, it is believed that Ham not only saw his father naked, but also he cut off his father's private parts with a perverse sense of cutting off his descendants, his father's descendants. The fact is that Ham did not or did what he shouldn't have done, and therefore Noah's curse also falls on his son Canaan, since by denying Noah's descendants, then Noah curses all descendants of Canaan, and curiously, from this man comes the Canaanites, or the Canaanite nation, and the Judaism is characterized by coming from this nation. The Sodomites are characterized by their actions of sexual nature, contrary to the Torah. In the extra-biblical books of Yashar, it is said that when Noah conceives Shem, he is born with the clean genes of his father, Noah, as well as Japheth. And we see that Cam was not born with the genes of his father, but with the genes of his mother. And finally, we see how generations of evil people come from Cam. But in the same way, there is always an opportunity for souls to do teshuvah, to return to the Father, to repent sincerely, and to walk in consecration. Shem was the one who was blessed, and it is known from his descendants that they kept the promises, they kept the precepts of the Eternal on the earth. And this is all for today's video. Thank you very much for your guys' time. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up or like this video. If you have any questions or any comments, you can leave them down in the comment section down below. And May you have a good day